What's up, guys? Welcome back to ClutchCousins Sports Podcast. I'm Jarvis.
I'm Nico. What's going on?
And today we're going to be talking about our favorite teams. My favorite team, the Seattle Seahawks. Nico's favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. Then we're going to transition on to the Dak contract dispute. And then we're going to talk about our NFL sleeper teams for this season, as well as our predictions for how the rest of the NBA season is going to play out.
Got a lot of juicy topics today.
A lot of juicy topics. So let's start off with Seattle. I want to know your opinion. What do you expect of Seattle coming into this season?
With Seattle, you can always expect Russell to be solid. And if they get both their running backs back, it's going to be difficult because of their division. But I feel like they will get a playoff seed, especially with the new expanded playoffs.
I definitely think a playoff seed for sure. The only thing that concerns me is the Clowney signing. I don't see him coming back, if I'm being honest, because I'm hearing he's getting $3 to $4 million more per year from like the Jets and the Browns offers compared to the Seahawks, which is also really rough because we have, I think, one of the worst or the worst defensive lines in the NFL when it comes to rushing the quarterback. So we definitely need that pressure. I mean, there are some other free agents we can pick up, but like that Clowney loss is a big one.
Yep.
But at the same time, we beefed up the O line. I mean, we just kind of signed like 10 different offensive linemen, and we're just going to see who's the best. So I mean, I guess I'm sure they'll help out a little bit. Our running backs are back for sure. That was a big thing, like we talked on the last podcast. We couldn't really just depend on like a older Marshawn Lynch to get us all the way to the Super Bowl. So we have Chris Carson, we have Rashad Penny coming back, so that should be good. And the thing I'm most excited about is our tight end, Will Dissly. 2 years in a row, he's torn his ACL halfway through the season, and before he tore his ACL both times, he was one of the leading. He was one of the best tight ends in the entire NFL, like in terms of touchdowns, receiving yards, and then he always hurts himself. So if he stays healthy this season, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Philip Dorsett, maybe Josh Gordon, because weed's allowed now. They allow the weed now, and then Will Dissly. So, and Greg Olsen. I mean,
you guys do have Olsen, the veteran presence.
what do you think about Olsen?
Olsen close to my heart too.
Yeah.
But I think he'll definitely help this new guy out, and he can also be productive in the red zone. And I think Metcalf is going to really emerge this year.
Oh, yeah. Metcalf, he had a big season last year. I think he'll be even better this year. Greg Olsen, I'm excited about. I'm not as excited as some other people are because I know he's older. And I know that we already have Will Dissly, and fingers crossed, I hope he stays healthy this season. Because if he does, I don't see Olsen getting a ton of playing time. I think he's a solid backup, though, behind Will Dissly. But it definitely it makes our team better. So I think that's the good thing about it.
Yeah, I think this is Olsen's last year before he goes to Monday Night Football in the booth. But yeah.
Speaking of like older tight ends, I was shocked. You as a Cowboys fan, I want to know, what did you think when Jason Witten retired, and then he came out of retirement, he said, I only want to play for the Cowboys, and then he goes to the Raiders? What is that all about?
I don't know. They said that Jerry wasn't getting him the money he wanted, and he still wanted to play football, as his Monday Night Football career in the booth kind of didn't go very well. But it's shocking to see one of the Dallas Cowboys' most iconic figures, honestly, in the last 20th century. Your Raiders, really mind-blowing.
I know. It's just I did not I expected him to either be a Cowboy or just retire. It was really shocking when I saw him sign with the Raiders. But I mean, that's just another weapon they have, because Jason Witten, in my opinion, like just watching him on the Cowboys, he's so reliable. I'd rather have him actually than Greg Olsen on my team, because even his age, he's always reliable. Even if he's not getting a lot of yards, when you need someone to catch it, he will be there every single time. So I like that Jason Witten signing by the Raiders. But other key pieces for the Seahawks, I like Shaquille Griffin. The cornerback, he's going into his third year. He's already one of the highest rated cornerbacks in the league. He's locked down. He's still learning for sure. He's still young, but he's been put up against Julio Jones. He's been put up against some of those Rams receivers. He's been put up against Devontae Adams, which I have to admit he didn't do a very good job in the divisional round. Devontae Adams had a great game. That was one of Shaquille Griffin's. I don't know. Maybe it was a down game for him. I think it was just a great game by Devontae. But he's been put up against some really, really tough receivers, and he's really performed.
Yeah,
So
I think both brothers are going to be solid players.
both brothers are solid. We got a new linebacker, which I was kind of questioning. I kind of wish we would have drafted a defensive end, but I know Jordan Brooks, our first round pick. I know he's a rushing linebacker, so I guess that'll add pressure. I know there's that defensive end free agent from the Vikings. I heard he's a 3-time Pro Bowler, and he's still a free agent. So hopefully the Seahawks can pick him up because any help. And we got Bruce Irvin back. He's older, not the same as when he was on the Hawks, but I think he'll still help. So I mean, I think anything below, in my opinion, anything below 11 wins this season, I would not be very happy with it because I think we have the talent on the roster.
I
Yeah,
think they could even with 10 or 9, they could sneak in the playoffs. But it's an up and coming roster.
because we were 11-5 last season, almost 12-4. We were 1 yard away from 12-4.
Yeah.
So I think this offseason, I think we got better. I know we lost Clowney, but we added a lot of other pieces, and I know the Seahawks will address the defensive line. They're not just going to leave that. So I think we're going to be better than we were last year. So I see the same record or slightly better going into this season.
Nice. Now let's
Yeah.
talk about the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys. Lots of changes over there. What do you think about your guys' new coach, Mike McCarthy? What do you think about that?
Last year everybody said that it was Super Bowl year, but I knew with Jason Garrett it wasn't going to get done. The clapper.
The the clapper, the clapper.
But Mike McCarthy, he took a year off. He drew up some new stuff. The only thing that might hurt him is having a virtual offseason and no training camp. But he has proven he's won a Super Bowl. I think he's going to lead us to at least a playoff win or multiple playoff wins.
Yeah, I definitely think the Cowboys are expected to win the division.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely expect to win. And then you got Amari Cooper on one side, who, to be fair, although Amari Cooper did have some slower games last season, he popped off in the beginning, he slowed down a little near the end, and then he popped off again at the end. But I see Amari Cooper now with the defense having to focus on CeeDee Lamb. He's going to have a great season.
Yeah, he kind of disappeared on away games,
mm-hmm.
but the drafting of CD, man, in the slot to replace Randall Cobb, that's big.
Yeah, because when you think about it, like almost all the attention was on Amari because he was like that main guy on the offense besides Zeke.
Yep.
At least in the passing game, he was the main guy. So definitely, I expect a lot from them. And I think like the Cowboys, I think they have one of the most talented rosters, honestly. But when you have a coach that doesn't know how to use that talent, kind of like the Browns last year, with their old coach, it's hard. It's like you have all these pieces, but you're not using them correctly. And I think Mike McCarthy, I think this is the most pieces he's ever had. He's always had Aaron Rodgers, he's had Devontae Adams, but he's never had Zeke, Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. He's never had a team like this. So I think it's going to be good.
I'm excited for that offense. The only thing I would be worried about is the defense. We lost a lot of key pieces, but as long as they can hold, we only got 2 interceptions, 2 or 3 last year. That's not great.
The thing I like about your defense, though, similar to like the Seahawks defense, although we're an average defense, there's a lot of young pieces on both defenses, and what that means is those players are improving every year. They're developing every single year, and they're going to be better. So I think I definitely think even with the pieces you lost, I think the Cowboys defense will be just as good or maybe slightly better this season. So in my opinion, I see them definitely. I think if they make it to the divisional round this year, I think that's a win. Especially with the first year with this new coach. But I expect the Cowboys to reach the NFC Championship at least once in the next 3 years. At least once.
At least.
Yeah. So.
Ooh, but it all depends on this Dak contract. What's going to happen with the Dak contract?
Yeah, let's move on to that. The Dak contract, $40 million. In my opinion, I think he knows that he's not going to get $40 million.
Yeah.
I think he's using it as leverage. I don't think he actually believes he's worth 40. Maybe he is, but I think he's just setting that super high bar so that the Cowboys they have to keep going closer and closer. You know what I mean? And they offered him 33. I was surprised when he didn't take that.
Yeah, so was
I. I mean, he's franchise tagged this season, so that's a lot of money too. But I don't know. What do you think about the whole situation?
If I were him, I would have just taken the 33 and then in 2 years become a free agent and gamble like Kirk Cousins did, honestly, for a bigger contract. but he's expecting so much money, and it's proven in the last 10 years that if you pay a quarterback, you won't win the Super Bowl because you can't get pieces around him.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to bring up. It's like I think teams are realizing that because the Rams kind of started that trend of spending a lot of money to win,
Yep.
and then the Packers they spend a lot of money on Rodgers. Uh, Lots of teams are spent Matt Ryan. They spent all their money on Matt Ryan, and it's like besides Julio, they don't have a ton of people to put around. They have a minimum contract Todd Gurley that they added, but that's because they're taking a risk. It's like when Dak enters that free agency market for quarterbacks, teams are going to realize, hey, if we spend like a third of our cap space on one player, we're not going to win a championship. So
Yeah.
if I'm Dak, I take that 33 mil while the Cowboys still offer it because honestly, the Cowboys they could find another quarterback for way cheaper if he's not willing to do that, and then Dak might have trouble finding a job. So who knows?
And Dak did have the leverage, but now the Cowboys do as they signed Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton is making more as a backup than Dak is right now in his rookie contract, which is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But they have that leverage of Dak. If you want to hold out and go to Cabo, we'll just put in Andy Dalton, and he's proven to win games.
Andy Dalton he's a solid quarterback. He's in Cincinnati. You know what I mean? And no disrespect to them, it's just they're kind of in rebuild mode right now for sure. And there's I feel bad for Andy Dalton because there's one guy he had AJ Green. I don't know any other players really on the Bengals besides AJ Green and Andy Dalton. It's like AJ Green didn't play, and it was also kind of weird because he was supposed to come back, and then he never did. That was definitely weird. I think by the time AJ Green was available to come back, which was around midseason, he knew the season was over. Because the Bengals hadn't won a game. He's like, why should I go out there and risk my body? If we're not even going to make the playoffs, which I mean, is smart for him in terms of health, but you still signed a contract to play games. You still made a commitment to the team.
Yeah.
So I wish we could have seen AJ Green out there.
I don't even think it mattered because they franchise tagged him, so he has at least 1 year where he has to play with Burrow. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, he has to play with Burrow. That'll be a great. I mean, I already kind of feel bad that Burrow has to go to the Bengals. I'm just a little scared that he's such a great talent. I don't want his talent being wasted on the Bengals. I mean, if anything, I'm sure if it doesn't work out there, some other team will pick him up for sure. You know what I mean? Hopefully the Bengals can turn it around. I know they only won 2 games. I like their coach, but yeah, I definitely think if Dak decides to leave or if Dak starts having a rough season, which I don't expect him to, I think he'll play just fine. But if he does, Andy Dalton's a solid backup.
I think regardless if Dak plays or not, they at least win the division. But we need Dak to win the playoff games. That is my opinion.
Yeah, that's the big thing. If Zeke, I think in the playoffs, if Zeke can run for more than 100 and Dak has a okay game, I think the Cowboys can win every single time because
I truly believe that as well.
Zeke is he's so hard to stop. He's one of the best or the best running backs in the league right now. So for sure. Now let us move on to our next topic of today. Some of our sleeper teams. So who do you? Oh wait, actually before that, you have record predictions for the Cowboys. I know we did it last time, but is it different or do you have a range?
I'm gonna say at least 12 with Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Without Dak and Dalton at the helm, I'm saying 10.
10?
Because Dalton has proven to get 10 and 11 win seasons before in his career.
Yeah.
With all the talent, he's got to get it.
I think for both of our teams, I think at least 10. That's what I'm looking for. I feel like anything, even 11, I feel like anything, 10 would be okay, but I think both of them have the talent, they have the coaches, they have the coaching staff. That they should be successful this year. All right, so some of our sleeper teams. I'll let you start off. Who do you have as a couple sleeper teams?
So my big sleeper team, which everybody might be surprised, the Browns. Last year they were hyped to go to the Super Bowl, but this year they finally have a new They've got a new GM, a new coach. They signed one of the greatest tight ends in football right now. If Baker comes back and succeeds well with all the talent around him, they should, in that tough division, go pretty far.
You know what I think the Browns' biggest problem was? I don't think it was them. I think it was everyone else hyping them up so much. I think it got to them. They were like, "Oh, the Browns are going to the Super Bowl. They got OBJ. They got Jarvis Landry. They have Nick Chubb. They have Baker Mayfield. They have all these amazing players."
Yeah.
But I think that kind of got to them, which I guess you could blame on them too. But I think, especially with sports media today, one move happens and they hype it up so much, like what we talked about last time. Todd Gurley, who had not even 600 rushing yards last season, gets signed to the Falcons, and they're like, "Oh, the Falcons franchise is going to be turned around." It's like I think we need to slow down. We need to remember Baker's still super young. Okay, OBJ and Landry, it's their first year. They're still adjusting. The coach the Browns had was just Freddie Kitchens. I have no idea why he was the coach. Yeah, Baker never liked Freddie Kitchens. Baker. The other weird thing with me about Baker, I mean, he never liked Hugh Jackson, the other coach. He never liked Freddie Kitchens. I hope that's just because they were bad coaches and Baker saw that. I hope it's not like I don't know for sure, but I hope not. I hope it's not like Baker is a diva or something and he just doesn't like his coaches. It is a little weird to me though that like Baker has shown some like disrespect to both of his coaches already. You know, like he wouldn't even shake Hugh Jackson's hand when he saw him, which I get they went 0-16 like under him and things like that, but like show some respect to like your old coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the deal is that under Lincoln Riley in college, he had a lot of success because Lincoln Riley is a disciplined guy.
Yeah.
And his other two coaches weren't disciplined. And then with Freddie Kitchen, when he filled in, they won games, but Freddie was more of a friend and not a coach to Baker.
Yeah,
that's where it all came crashing down.
I saw some of those mic'd up videos on YouTube, and Freddie Kitchens, he just treats Baker like they're just pals, like at a bar or something, just hanging out. It's like, they're on a sideline, they're trying to win football games, and Freddie Kitchens like cracking jokes. It's like there's a time and a place to be funny, but like when people are expecting this much from your franchise and you're the coach, it's like you got to be a little bit more serious.
And I'm excited for Stefanski to get in there. He's a good guy, good coordinator, and that's what they need. They need a good offensive guy in there.
Yeah, if they have an offensive-minded coach, someone like a Sean McVay or something like that, running that offense, which hopefully their new coach can be. Maybe not up to the Sean McVay standards, but somewhere around there, their offense could be really lethal.
So what other sleeper teams you got?
I got, and we talked about them a little bit last episode, the Broncos. I really like the Broncos. They got, Drew Lock. They got Jerry Jeudy. They got a new tight end, right? Yeah, new tight. They all the pieces that they drafted, almost all were all for Drew Lock, which I think is good, but also at the same time, like we were mentioning, we haven't seen a ton of Drew Lock. He looks great already, but I hope he wasn't like a one-hit wonder in those few games, because if Drew Lock starts struggling, it's like you just drafted all these pieces for him. But I do believe in Drew Lock. I think most likely he'll be a great quarterback, and I think he'll get even better with these new pieces. It's definitely a little risky by the Broncos, but you got to take risks sometimes to win football games. So
as long as Drew Lock can put up points on the board, that defense will hold. You got Von Miller and Bradley Chubb coming back.
Yeah,
I mean, not long ago they were in the Super Bowl winning it with their defense. So
that is true. It was just a few years ago the Broncos, they dominated the 15-1 Panthers, and no one expected that, and that just shows like how strong. That shows how strong defenses are, because you see Super Bowl 48, the Seahawks, they're big underdogs against the historic offense of the Broncos, and they blow them out. You see the Panthers, huge favorites to beat the Broncos in Super Bowl 50, and the Broncos, they win that game. It's not a super close matchup. They create a lot of pressure, so I think that shows how important defense is. And the Broncos, they always prioritize that. So I definitely think with that solid defense they already have, plus that up and coming offense, they could be really good. Yeah. Sure. So the next team I got on the list, a lot of people don't have them as a sleeper this season. I do. I have the Las Vegas Raiders. That sounds weird to say. I'm so used to Oakland Raiders, but Las Vegas this year, their new stadium, it's looking pretty nice, jet black. Nice. But I think the addition of Henry Ruggs, I think the addition of Nelson Aguilar, I think the pieces that they picked up, they beefed up the defense. I think it's going to be good because you got Josh Jacobs, who as a rookie had a great rookie campaign. He had an injury. Hopefully that doesn't happen this season. He's definitely, even after seeing him for 1 year, you can tell he's a reliable running back. You got Henry Ruggs, who I think I compare him to Tyreek Hill. Maybe he won't be as good as Tyreek Hill, but even if he's close to that, he could be great because he'll be such a distraction with his speed that you got the deep threat Nelson Aguilar on the other side of the field, and then you got Jason Witten, who wants to prove himself in probably his final year. You got a nice offensive line. The Raiders actually have the heaviest offensive line in the league. But if you look at those guys are beasts. They're just huge. Oh, big boys on that offensive line. But and the defense, definitely a lot of talk about that. But I think these rookies will definitely help out. I think their offense improved. I think their defense improved, and I see them potentially being a wild card this season. What do you think about them?
The Raiders, it really comes down to quarterback play. I mean, last year they were an ascending team, defense and offense was getting better. And it really depends on if Derek Carr can go back to MVP form or if Mariota can actually play like a starter. It really depends on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. They have all the pieces there, but Dak just or not Dak. Derek Carr has not been performing. He had that great season when they had Jordy Nelson, Michael Crabtree. They had some great Amari Cooper. He had them all at one time. He had that great season, and then he had that injury, and he never really was the same player. But I also think it's because he had to get used to a new coach, a new system. He had a lot of new players around him. He didn't. He lost Michael Crabtree. He lost Amari Cooper. He didn't have a ton of targets to throw to. He has targets now, and free agency's not even over, so let's see what happens. But I think Dak for sure plays better, and if he just also just is more consistent, even not even talking about the weapons around him, but if he's more consistent as a quarterback and he makes smarter plays, because a lot of it has been his fault. He's been making some questionable plays sometimes, throwing some picks that he shouldn't be throwing.
Yep.
If he becomes smarter this season, goes back to how he was, which I think he will, and now that he has more weapons, I definitely see the Raiders. They could definitely they can make some noise in the AFC West. So
the Raiders could shock some people.
Yeah. So the next team I got is the Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals. What do you think about this team?
Yeah, the Cardinals also an up-and-coming team. First overall draft pick last year, Kyler Murray. But he was running for his life. This year, they shored up that offensive line, and they traded for one of the best wideouts in the league, DeAndre
Yeah,
Hopkins.
let's talk about that real quick. What are the Texans thinking with?
Bill O'Brien clearly had a grudge against him, him away for a box of cookies.
It's just they asked Bill O'Brien and they're like, "Why did you trade DeAndre?" And he's like, "Oh, well, he wanted 27 million a year." And I was like, "Okay, maybe that makes sense. Maybe they're trying to free up some cap space. It's still weird." And then they signed Brandon Cooks, who has the exact same contract as DeAndre Hopkins.
And Randall Cobb. They signed both of those players.
What is going on there?
And they didn't even sign D-Hop for another 2 years, which just shows you there was something going on there that was a personal issue.
I just think when you have a coach that, if you have a coach that can't even fix, because in my opinion, I don't know DeAndre Hopkins personally. I wish I did. That'd be cool. But in my opinion, DeAndre Hopkins, he seems like a pretty cool guy. He's never had problems on the field. He's never had problems off the field. So looking at it from a fan's point of view, it almost looks like there might be something going on with Bill O'Brien. Because if you have a coach that can't even solve a problem with a player like that, or he holds a grudge against one of his players, and he deals them away because of that grudge, you might want to look into a new coach there. Because
and the problem is he's not only the coach, but he's also the GM. He's trying to pull a Belichick on us by being both players. And that's hard to run both of those positions at the same time.
And I got to be honest, Bill O'Brien, sorry to you Texans fans watching this, but he's not a Bill Belichick. I definitely think he's a good coach, but I would not trust him as my GM. I would trust him as my coach. But after seeing some of those moves he's made, I would not want him as my GM.
Question for you.
Yeah.
If you were John Watson,
yes,
would you ask for a trade? Would you be frustrated that they got rid of your best player?
You know what I do if I'm Deshaun Watson? I've seen this around the league a lot, and it's actually in Vegas. Deshaun Watson is the favorite to be the Patriots quarterback next season when he's a free agent.
Wow.
Yeah, he is the favorite. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I play one more season, I play it out, see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, I go into free agency, and if the Patriots offer me a contract, I'm signing with them. I'm definitely signing with that system. Because Deshaun Watson, he would definitely clear up the quarterback confusion in New England. He's a great quarterback. Him and Bill Belichick would be amazing. You know what I mean? The Patriots would put pieces around him. He wouldn't be the cheapest quarterback. He wouldn't take a pay cut like Tom Brady, I don't think. But I think Deshaun Watson would thrive in that system. Let's see how he does, because he does have Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, two solid, receivers, and he has Will Fuller. I wish the Texans could have figured something out with D Hop, kept Will Fuller, he's a young, great receiver, one of the most underrated receivers in my opinion. And then if they can, and then if they sign either Randall or Brandon Cooks as well, can you imagine Deshaun Watson with those three guys?
Even four, not even five receivers.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, they were up by 24 points against the Chiefs.
yeah, it's
So the question is, do you want more offensive firepower or do you want more defensive stoppage players?
for sure because that Texans defense they had no answers for the Chiefs right there. But us get back to the Cardinals because we started this on the Cardinals, but you were saying Kyler Murray running for his life. That is true. You know, Kyler Murray this season, he reminded me of Russell Wilson in 2017 when we had no offensive line. I see him running in circles, you know. But I'm glad they beefed up that O line. He has DeAndre Hopkins to throw to, which is like the most reliable target in the NFL, in my opinion. You know, he's always the guy that can catch it. Um, their running back. Do you know what's going on with the running back situation?
You know, they got rid of in the DeAndre Hopkins trade. They got rid of the big contract.
Yeah.
And now they also brought in Drake from Miami, and
Drake's
solid. He's solid.
Drake is solid. I definitely think he's good. He's not, you know, he did have that one game with like 4 touchdowns. I think four or five. He had one great game. I don't see him doing that consistently. I think he'll be a great running back. I definitely think the passing game is what's going to win the Cardinals games. I think Kyler Murray scrambling, you know, not running for his life, but just scrambling to get the first down, and then throwing to some of those receivers they got over in Arizona. I think that could definitely be good. So I see Arizona. The only thing I worry about is that they are in the toughest division, you know.
They are.
So let's see what happens, but I definitely have the Cardinals.
Think about this. Cardinals are going to be great, and uh, Hopkins is going to be able to learn from the veteran Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, he's going to get even better.
Yeah, if you have DeAndre Hopkins getting some wisdom from Larry Fitz, and then Larry Fitz, he'll probably, you know, this might be his last season. I'm surprised he hasn't already retired, but he loves football. I think Larry Fitz he might really push himself this year because he sees this as his last chance to really win one with the Cardinals because they have a good team this year up and coming. So if Larry Fitz, even if he has like a 700-800 yard season, and then DeAndre Hopkins has a 1,000+ yard season, the Cardinals they could be looking really good this year. Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic, onto our NBA segment of the podcast. This one's going to be a little longer because there's a lot to talk about. Let's start off first with the biggest question. Do you think the NBA season will resume?
You know, as a fan, I would hope it would resume. I think if it were going to, it would have to be a business spot to Vegas or Orlando. All teams would have to be there. There would have to be no fans, and you would have to go right into the playoffs. There could no longer be a regular season. You just take the seeding and play the playoffs out as they would be.
I agree. I think they are going to resume it. The thing I really don't know. I don't know if they're going to go straight into the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to try to finish the regular season. As a fan, I would almost like to see them just go straight to the playoffs, just because all the playoff teams are pretty much set. I mean, the only thing I could think about is the Pelicans and the Grizzlies possibly switching the ninth seed and eighth seed. The East, I think the East is on lock. I don't really see any other teams sneaking in there.
I don't see any movement.
I don't see any movement because even the teams that are in ninth and 10th seed, they'd have to win quite a few games. They're behind. It would suck because the Pelicans don't have, you know, they definitely still have a good shot making it to the playoffs, and I would love to see Zion in the playoffs. But you know, this is something we just didn't expect. So I think if I'm the NBA, I resume the season and I start the playoffs immediately just to stay on track or not to fall behind too much. Because there's still like we still got 30 games left to play in the regular season, you know, so that would take a while. That would take a couple months. So
It would. I mean, if you play out all 30 games and then the playoffs, you're looking for at least August to where it finishes up.
yeah, and
go straight to the playoffs. It's done deal.
those extra 30 games that just increases the chance of players getting corona, and then that could end up slowing the season even more, you know, or causing some key players that could have helped you in the playoffs not be able to play, you know, if they go down with a coronavirus case. So I think going straight into the playoffs would help. I would like that, honestly, because Lakers, we have the number one seed right now. I would just love to see us, you know, go into the playoffs with that seeding. But we'll see what happens. So
Now, do you think that whatever team, so say we go back back into playoffs, whatever team wins the championship, do you think there's an asterisk on that championship saying that that championship wasn't as deserved as the other ones? Or do you think people are going to count it as a real championship?
I think they're still going to count it as a real championship, just because it's they're still going to play through the playoffs. The seeding might be a little bit different if the playoffs would have gone as scheduled. There might have been some switches, but I think it pretty much is exactly the same or resembles closely to what the playoffs would have been. And it is a weird season, but no one expected this, and I think it's hard for all the players. So I think this season, like finishing up the season will be harder than a normal season, even though they played less games. No one's used to stopping for this long and not going to practice daily, not playing games. It's going to definitely be hard for NBA players to transition back into it, especially if it's directly right back into the playoffs. But I still think it's just as deserved as other championships.
Yeah, I think even kind of more
Yeah,
because, like you said, they're coming back from something that we've never experienced before. It really will show what players have been staying in shape and what players have not been doing anything.
yeah,
So it's really, I think it's kind of more if you can, and imagine a 7 or 8 seed coming and winning the whole championship.
yeah.
I mean, that'll even add more credit.
Speaking of 7 and 8 seeds, the Brooklyn Nets, depending on when the season resumes, will Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving be healthy? Because I was hearing reports, the Nets, they shut it down pretty quickly, but there were some people in the organization saying Durant has a chance to play the last few games of the season and potentially the playoffs. And I was surprised by that. And the Nets, I heard the Nets, they were saying Durant's not playing this season. I did hear some more rumors that if they made it far into the playoffs, they might try to play him. I don't know about that because last time a team tried to play Durant when he wasn't fully healthy, we saw what happened against Toronto. He re-injured himself. So I don't know if Durant would want that, but I definitely think if the NBA season starts up and we have to go through the playoffs, we might not see Durant directly at the beginning, but we might see him near the end. And if Kyrie and Durant are playing on the court together, they could make some real noise in the East.
Yeah, the question is, if you're Durant, do you want to come back without Kyrie being healthy?
How do we know how long Kyrie's out for with
We
that
don't
that
know. We
injury?
don't know. But if I were Durant, I would not want to come back. And but if I would not want to come back without Kyrie, but if Kyrie was ready to go and you were the 7th seed playing a 2 seed that you think you could beat, I would go out there and just try to do
Yeah,
it.
I think it all depends on when the season does start. If the season starts at a time where Kyrie feels like he could potentially come back, and Durant feels like he could potentially come back because they have a lot of time right now to rehab.
Yeah,
They're not going out. They're not doing any sponsorship events. They're not doing any commercials right now. They're not doing anything. They're staying inside. So they have all the time in the world to rehab right now. I think that's going to speed up the recovery process. I think depending on when the season starts, if we see Durant and Kyrie come back, we could definitely see them get to the Eastern Conference Finals for sure.
and another thing to think about was Durant said he was playing in the Olympics this year, which was in July. And if the season starts after July, Durant should theoretically, I'm looking at the timeline, be able to play.
Even let's say the season starts in June, and the season starts in June, let's say possibly. If the Nets somehow win their first matchup, maybe Durant's not ready yet, but if they somehow win that first matchup, I definitely see Durant playing in the second round. Definitely could see that. So that could be scary. That could definitely be scary because they would be playing against. I think the number 2 seed right now is the Raptors. So I would
Yeah,
love
it
to
is
see.
Raptors.
Yeah, I would
So
love to see Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Fred Van Fleet versus Spencer Dinwiddie, Durant, Kyrie, Jarrett Allen. That could be a really fun matchup to watch.
that could be a good matchup.
Yeah,
So now, right now, I think it would stand if we went to the playoffs as Bucks being the 1 seed, Raptors, Celtics, Heat, Pacers, 76ers, Nets, and Magic, and that's where we would have to leave it and start with the playoffs.
yeah, for sure. Because I like the playoff standings where they are now. I don't think they're going to change too much. But the next thing also is if the season does resume, what cities are you looking at, or do you think it'll just resume in the regular arenas?
I think would have to either be in Vegas or Orlando, where you usually do the preseason and for all the rookies.
Yeah,
It would have to be there in a neutral spot. All the teams would have to be in 1 or 2 hotels, wouldn't be able to leave the designated city, and I don't even think you could bring fans in.
See, the thing I'm wondering about, I know the NBA season will probably start this summer. NFL doesn't start till September,
Yeah,
but the NFL is already planning on having games in the regular stadiums.
yeah,
So but I do think NBA would have to have it in a certain city. And I've heard reports that the Las Vegas mayor is saying that he would volunteer the city to be the sports hub of the world, where only sports players can come in and only sports players go out. It's like a quarantine city. So that could be cool to watch. There's lots of hotels there for all the teams to stay in. You know what I mean? And it would be cool. It would definitely be weird without fans, as we've seen in some of the UFC fights. It's a whole different experience. You can really hear what's going on, especially with the punches. And I think in the NBA, it would still be entertaining because you could hear all the trash talk. You could
yeah.
hear
You would.
all the things the coaches are saying.
Yeah,
That would be entertaining. Even like the NFL draft, I actually enjoyed it more this year. It was definitely different. But seeing Roger Goodell in his little man cave, seeing all the players in their living rooms, it was definitely a fun experience. So I think, although it's not what we expected, I think it'll still be really enjoyable to watch.
yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited. Fans or no fans, we need NBA basketball. But speaking of
Yes.
the man cave, apparently a bidder bid $25,000 or $2,500,000 to watch a Monday Night Football game with Goodell in the man cave.
Oh,
So
really?
that better be televised. That's gonna be
I saw that.
crazy.
I saw that. I think that'd be pretty fun. It was hilarious. My favorite part of that draft was at the end. At the end of the night when it was getting late, Roger Goodell he laid back on his recliner and he had the card in his hand. He was reading off the names. That was never something I thought I'd see. The NFL commissioner laying back on national TV drafting players for teams, but that was definitely cool to watch.
Yeah, it is something else.
Yeah,
Definitely, it'll make you love or hate the guy. You know.
yeah. So back to NBA. If the season does resume, what are some of your predictions? What are some of your conference finals matchups, and what are your finals matchups that you're looking at?
For conference finals, for Eastern, I would have to say I'm thinking the Bucks and the Heat. I think that would be a fun one.
Mm, yeah.
And then for the Western, I want to see the Battle of LA. I really do. Lakers and Clippers.
Yes.
And for finals, I think the Clippers. I think the Lakers and the Bucks are the most two consistent teams throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
Even though the Corona happened, they will face each other in the finals.
I think for me, I definitely the thing about the Bucks that always scares me is they never perform the same in the playoffs. Sometimes their
Yeah,
performance goes a little down. They have these great seasons. The Bucks at one point they were actually on pace for a 73 win season, but I think they do better this year. Giannis improves every single year. I do think it'll either be the Bucks and the Heat or the Raptors and the Heat, and then for the West, I do see the Lakers and the Clippers in the conference finals. Um, and I have to go with the same. I have to say Lakers Bucks, but if it's not that, then I would say Lakers Raptors because even though Kawhi left, the Raptors are still a very very good team.
Raptors are scary. I thought the Raptors would be more of a free agent destination. Somebody comes in and replaces Kawhi, and they're back in the finals.
See the thing about the Raptors that I knew it actually was funny because I was drafting my fantasy basketball team and I knew Siakam was going to be good. He has a lot more. He has the ball in his hands more with Kawhi gone. Kyle Lowry, we already knew was going to be good, but the one person no one expected to pop off the season was Fred Van Vliet. And when I was drafting, I was like, you know what? Kawhi left. Fred Van Vliet, he's going to get more playing time. He's going to have the ball in his hands more. He's shown us what he can do. And if you're looking at him, he really performed this season. And I'm glad I drafted him because he got me a lot of points. So I don't even think they needed that extra free agent. Of course, it would help, but getting Fred Van Vliet upping his game to the next level this year, that really made them they're a real contender. So
They really are.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we covered all the bases for today. It was a good podcast. We talked about the DAC contract, our favorite teams, some predictions for sleeper teams, and then hopefully the NBA season starts. I don't think it'll be canceled, so that should be fun to watch.
Yeah, that's the hope. It's not canceled because I feel like if it was canceled, it would really be a letdown for the players, for the fans, and
Yeah,
they should figure out a way to make it happen.
I
And
think they will.
NFL, we've got a little bit more time to figure it out before. You don't need for the NFL. You don't even need to have preseason football. You just go straight into it, and that makes it
Yeah,
even more exciting, honestly.
That is true because preseason, I love football, but that's one of the most boring things to watch. I hate watching those preseason games. But I think we covered all the bases. So we'll see you guys next time. We'll be